Several years ago, I started doing videos on the Phantasy Star series. My intention was to review all the main games in the series, but in 2016 I hit a roadblock. A very boring one. That roadblock was called Phantasy Star 3, an RPG so bad that it scared me off the franchise. But I've had a couple years to heal now, so let's take a look at the final game in the main series, Phantasy Star 4. I'm playing this one on the Sega Genesis Classics, so yeah, we're playing PS4 on PS4. Now that I think about it, if you have Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection, you can play Phantasy Star 3 on PS3. And if you have the Sega Genesis Collection, you can play Phantasy Star 2 on PS2. There's even a Phantasy Star Portable for PSP. Too bad there are no Sega compilations for PS1. If Sega ever decides to make a Phantasy Star 5, that has to go on the Vita. Oh yeah, PSV on PS Vita. Come on Sega, make it happen. Someone pointed out in my Phantasy Star 3 review that the main character's name is actually pronounced Reese. Does that mean this character is called Elise? Well, that sounds just fine, but I refuse to call this character Grease. Or maybe it's Greasy. Let's look up the original Japanese pronunciation and try to figure this one out. Oh! It looks like his name is pronounced Pike. Wait, what? How the heck did they get Grizz out of Pike? Well, this is actually pretty common in the series. I can understand why some get altered because there is a 4-character limit on each party member's name. In the Japanese alphabet, this isn't such a big deal, since many of their characters equal 2 or sometimes 3 letters in our alphabet. But when the games get localized for a Western release, some names would inevitably have to be changed. Some of them make sense, like Rutger in the second game being changed to Rudo. However, some of them are just bizarre, like the main character of Phantasy Star 2, who was named Yusis in Japan. That may not be the best sounding name, but at least it's a lot better than what they decided to name him in the North American release, Rolf. That sounds like something Scooby-Doo would say, not the name of the main protagonist in an RPG. Story begins with Elise and Chaz talking to a principal in an academy who seems to be hiding something. He sends the duo to the lab underneath the academy to deal with a mysterious monster infestation. On the way there, they encounter Han, who Elise is nice enough to let tag along for a small fee. After investigating and dealing with the monsters, the group confronts the principal, who then reveals the truth of what is really going on. A dark wizard named Zeo is responsible for the happenings in the underground lab, and also in a place called Birth Valley. Someone that went to investigate Birth Valley never returned, so the principal forbid anyone else from doing so. Since the party was successful in eradicating the monsters in the lab, he believes they are strong enough to face whoever or whatever is lurking in the valley. What follows is a wonderful adventure that will see you hopping from planet to planet once again to eradicate the ultimate evil that's trying to destroy everything. There were a lot of cool callbacks to previous games of the series, and the story and characters did a great job of keeping me engaged throughout. A lot of the banter between certain party members was pretty humorous, and helped give this game a personality that was sorely lacking in Phantasy Star 3. The visual presentation of the story is quite stunning during cutscenes. You'll see some wonderful character portraits along with comic book style panels. The development team really did a great job with the presentation despite the limitations of the 16-bit hardware. While we're on the topic of graphics, everything is so bright and colorful in this one. We no longer have to deal with the drab RPG Maker-like towns found in the previous game. This looks and feels like Phantasy Star again. Combat in the game is quite fun and greatly expands on the auto battle feature of the previous 2 installments. There is an option called Macro, which lets you assign various tactics for each character. I love it when turn-based RPGs have a feature like this, as it saves you a lot of time that would otherwise have been spent selecting the same attacks for each character in each encounter. Another great aspect of battle is that there are now team-up attacks. I only managed to find a couple myself, but more can be discovered by experimenting with the character's various techniques. In addition to techniques, each character also has skills that can be used in battle. Techs use up TP, which are basically magic points, and skills have a set number of uses. Like the previous games, there are no items that will restore these points, you can only recharge them by resting at an inn. Dungeons in Phantasy Star 4 are short and sweet, and the best in the series in my opinion. There are no ultra confusing layouts like the second game, or boring grid layouts like the third. I do have to admit that it would have been cool if they returned to the first-person dungeons found in the Master System game, but these are really well designed and it was very rare when I would get stuck in one for a long time. Some great features have been added to Phantasy Star 4. The first is that you can save at just about any spot in the game as long as you aren't inside a dungeon. I've said it before and I'll say it again, this is always welcome in any game, especially lengthy RPGs. Another great addition is that you can talk to your party at any time. This is incredibly useful as your teammates will always tell you where you need to go next. In one of my old videos, I complained about the notebook feature in Pair Solar that is supposed to tell you where to go next, but instead tells you where you just were. Yeah, that's right, the gaming equivalent of turning your blinker on after you've completed the turn. It's amazing that Sega was able to nail this feature in 1995, but a modern developer was unable to do so in 2010. Praise be to Melon. The soundtrack has that classic Genesis sound and is really enjoyable to listen to. With some of these older RPGs, I usually find myself getting bored with the game audio at some point and end up muting it and putting on my own music, but that did not happen here. Sound effects are decent enough, with none of them being super annoying. Phantasy Star 4 is an amazing RPG and a great way to end the saga. If you'd like to find a copy of this on the Genesis, it can be pretty expensive, with complete in-box copies selling from anywhere between $60 to $100. If you aren't looking to spend that much, you can always get the Sega Genesis Classics compilations for the modern systems, which you should be able to snag for $30 brand new. This game has also appeared on several other compilations in the past, which you'll be able to find for even cheaper. Buy it and play it any way you can, as this is one of the best RPGs of the 16-bit generation. And that will do it for this one. I want to thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you next time.